Welcome to Forever Exiled, a Path of Exile podcast. I'm Justin, aka Tags.
And I'm Tyler, Wrecker of Days.
This is episode 78. We were just here like days ago.
This is too much, Justin.
Way too much. Normally we get a
Justin.
break and then we're like half excited to see each other, but now it's just like, ugh, thank God there's patch notes because otherwise, yeesh, this would be awkward.
For all you folks that hate the how's your week, Justin segment, well, you can have a nice little showing here because this is all Dev Manifesto and patch notes. And I totally forgot to include my Dev Manifesto notes, so we're skipping straight to patch notes.
Yeah, whatever. Dev Manifesto doesn't matter. It is what it is. It's funny, but it's just a teaser.
I love it.
It's a teaser.
But when you're going through patch notes, it gets it covered. But I'm really glad they do Dev Manifestos. I like that they communicate the whys of certain things.
Yeah, I think kind of also gives you a bit of a heads up as you go into the patch notes too. So you have a bit of an idea of their direction, which is always good. Mm-hmm. And yeah, if you've listened to any of our patch notes episode before, minus the very first one, we pick out the things we think are awesome and talk about them. And then otherwise we bypass them. So we probably won't talk about something you're thinking about. And that's all right.
And yeah, we kind of expect you to have already gone through the Dev Manifesto and patch notes anyway. So
right. I mean, we're actually doing this pretty quick based on when it came out. We always try to get it out the same day. But yeah, we're going to talk about what interests us because otherwise this would be boring.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about stupid minions. Nobody cares.
I do.
All right, so let's just jump right into it. So they obviously announced the Ultimatum Challenge League. That's always basic. Most of the time we have a pretty good idea of what we're looking at when we get into there. They talked about the awards.
Do you care about the challenge rewards?
I always want to say yes, but I've told myself to stop doing that because I never get them. Ever. Every time I go.
Was there a portal last time? Oh, no, it was a hideout. Did you get the hideout last week?
No, I don't even think I got to 12. I don't even think I got the base one.
You played well.
I know, but I just didn't
care.
Sometimes they do challenges that, I just don't care. I don't want to grind Uber Lab 100 times. That's not fun.
Why not?
It's not fun for me. For a hideout that, guess what? I'll just buy it later. I don't care. So
I hope they make it exclusive just to spite you. I always like the rewards, but I never care about them. Like for me, I don't even check the screen. If I only need to do, maybe, I don't know what it is. Let's say I need to use a transmute or an alteration for some reason. I haven't done that the whole league. Just to actually, that's like the last item I need to use to get it. I won't even do it.
It's like, go to the den, do the quest. I'm like, no,
that sounds too far. I was planning on going west on my atlas or on my map, but I like pets. I love pets and portals. So for those that are exactly like me but care about challenges, good luck and have fun.
Always get excited for it, and it's cool that they do it. I won't be going for it, but if I happen to fall upon them, fine.
Yeah,
maybe I'll just happen to get a portal. It's unlikely. So then we had a bunch of new content.
Major new content, yeah.
A couple new skills. Do any of the new skills stand out to you in a way that you'll actually use them?
Did you skip ahead, or is this still major? Is this in the major part?
Major new content.
Okay.
We're talking
the ones. Well, no, because I didn't. Oh yeah,
I really threw Tyler for a loop on this one. Tyler would normally have prepared for about 4 or 5 hours. He'd have a couple novels written with his notes. I gave him about 20 minutes before we started. So.
Well, but sometimes, like, as a stay-at-home parent, I can sacrifice my to-do list, and it only angers my family. Like, it's not like I have a job throughout the day. So if the patch notes come out at noon or 1 p.m., last league, I think they were able to come out really early in the day. So I was able to prep before I even needed to get the kids from school. Whereas today, by the time they came out, we were already started dinner and the bedtime routine. So it was only
it was a little later today.
Yeah. But to answer your question, the blood magic stuff kind of excites me. Sorry, not the blood magic. Like that one's kind of neat. I use blood magic a lot with my specters because I use them defensively. So seeing that gem split in two was definitely something I'm going to pay a lot more attention to. And then I'm also quite interested to experiment with the new defensive types of gems. Like the defense that you can get from, being on low life, which is of course a mechanic that has changed now down to 50%. So
yep,
I like being in the north of the tree. I'm a big minion fan. So any type of damage mitigation I can get is very important because having naturally having physical damage mitigation is something you really have to focus and invest a lot into on the north side of the tree. So any type of defense I can get that doesn't require too much investment, I'm definitely going to play around with a lot. How are you? Any of them stand out to you or no?
A Reap looks cool. I won't try it. I certainly won't try it as a new one.
Is it because you're pissed that it's a spell and not an attack?
I bet there's some clever reason or some, there's a mechanic that I'm not seeing that I'm sure that works really well with. And so I'd rather watch what other people like to do with it, because it does look really cool. It's got some weird interactions too. Like if the enemy survives, you gain a blood charge, and then that raises the damage and the cost of the skill. So it seems very dynamic in how that skill changes as you're playing. But I don't know. I already know where I'm starting. We're going to get to it, and I am so excited.
A couple other things that interested me in the major content was the Petrified Blood description. Would be pretty cool with Pathfinder. That's where you get...
The lower half is protected?
No, it's you...
That's what Petrified Blood is.
Oh, right. But, what was it with Pathfinder? It had something to do with being able to use a life flask all the time. So like your max life per se, or you're always at low life, you're 50%. But being a Pathfinder, and if you're always using a life, you're right, because you're trying to keep your other buffs up as a Pathfinder, I was thinking like that'd be kind of a cool interaction where, I mean, most of the time, other players that aren't like me are flasking like crazy, all the utility flasks. But if you just used it as a life flask, just kept it going over and over, you'd still get tons of the cool buffs that they have and benefits. And I thought it would be a cool interaction in my head. I haven't touched it yet, of course, but it seemed pretty neat. And the new vendor recipes and Atlas drops. Those are in the major section there. And to me, that's awesome. I know
what
the
could be a
community's
vendor recipe? I'm so curious. Like, what is there that they like, well, we haven't done this yet?
I don't know. Like, I think it's great.
I hope it's fun. I hope it's something fun.
Yeah, I don't know. Seems maybe there's a new way to 2020 a gem. Cool. Good talk. But the new Atlas based drops I think are neat. That's an area that I thought was kind of not necessarily neglected, but maybe didn't need an update. Well, actually, yeah, I really did need an update, and I'm glad it got one. I'm very curious to see what the implicits are for those items.
Mm-hmm. It'll be cool just to see what they are at all.
Yeah. Any is it all apathetic for minor new content?
Yeah. It was a small one anyway. And it was basically them talking about some of the changes in general and how they're affecting things like sextants and catalysts and blah, blah, blah. I like one of the themes of these patch notes was, please read the blank section for more information. It was throughout the whole patch notes because there were so many general changes that were being made that made me laugh, because you see that a lot.
I can't ever decide if I like sextants or not.
I do.
It's funny because I like adding more to my map, but I hate how random it is, and I hate half the sextants mods. Like, I hate speeding up. Everyone else likes it, but I hate it when I'm like speeding up, going slow, speeding up, going slow. And so there's some that I definitely hate. So adding more sextants mods, I like it, but then depending on the day, I don't like it. I'm one of those weird people. It's like a kid that's always changing their favorite color. That's me in sextants mods. I can never decide if I like it or not.
I think there's only one that speeds you up, and you could just roll over it. You don't have to do it.
Yeah, but I feel like I'm wasting currency by not doing it.
Or even more so by just leaving it in your inventory and not using it.
Yeah, well, no, so I use them, but then I get the mods that I don't want, and then I do them anyway. Anyway, but I also like, this is in every single patch notes, but I like it. Always improving sound, art, effects, and environment. I love that note because it's so miscellaneous. That's probably where they sneak in all the added new randomization to this map base or to this map layout. You know how I keep talking every league. It seems like they added more randomization. It's less sure for the veteran player, the veteran leveler. Anyway.
Yep. All right, let's get into Atlas. Atlas and map changes. They're cool.
Oh, okay. That's where you're going with it. All right, cool. There was actually quite a few that I liked here.
Yeah, there's one that I don't really like, but most of them I think are really cool. The whole new change with regards to Conquerors and how you can actually roll them now and you can use things within the map device. I think that's really cool. They've been saying that was coming for a bit. So it's nice to finally see that come.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm really glad that happened. I didn't know it was coming at all. I missed that. And I try and pay attention as best I can to what they say.
It was like, if you go back the league after this new Atlas, they had talked about the fact that you would be able to start to roll the maps that would lead you to the conquerors, and then the leagues came out and that never happened. They just automatically opened the map and it was a unrolled map. So it's nice for them to finally do something now where you can actually affect the map you're about to run.
Yeah, definitely. That being said, one of my favorite things about Conqueror maps was that it was still difficult, but it had no mods.
Which you could still do.
True. But now I feel like I'm being a sissy and running a normal T16. Whereas before I liked it because the content could still be difficult or challenging, just as challenging as any other map because of the influence mods, but there weren't any mods that impacted you. And one of my biggest pet peeves in the game is that there's a ton of mods that can actually... I wish all map mods only impacted the enemies. They didn't impact me. Like, I can't tell you how irritating it is as a righteous fire lover to, oh no, it's negative to resist. Oh no, it's lower. Oh no, I can't, regen life. Oh, it's lower life recovery rate. Like, it's just, I want to play my build. Just make the enemies hard. So anyway,
it's nice that they did leave that though. You can still do that. And I think that this change is much more beneficial to you end game when you're not just starting to get into it and maybe struggling with the content, but you're crushing the content. So you get that extra quantity.
You might know more about this than I do, but Maven will now only witness encounters in the Uncharted Realms Atlas region for the player that created the encounter. That's probably cool for somebody. I brought that in because I'm yet to encounter Maven
the
outside
Uncharted
of her just
Realms,
saying,
you say?
What? Yeah, qu'est-ce que c'est?
Yeah. Never got to it, this league.
I have a ton, especially now because I've barely played this last league for console performance, but I have a ton of Atlas missions, master missions that have just stacked up. It was a ton before. Now they've kind of changed how that works because the focus of Atlas missions should be if you want to invest in it, you can do that in the Atlas passive. So now the Awakening bonus objectives don't give you increased Atlas missions upon completion, if that makes sense. So, but I like that because now you can invest in it, and otherwise if you don't care, then you don't care. And then of course we mentioned this in the last episode, but all types of leagues, Delirium, Abyss, Ambush, blah blah blah, they're all gone from their whatever rate they were. Most of them were 10%, all of them are at 8%, and how to modify that has been added throughout the game in the different items that they've added and revamped. So it's nice. 8% flat. Not like that really matters to us because it's not like we're doing the math in our head, but it's nice. Everybody's getting treated equal. So that's the thing.
I'm fine with it. The only one thing I don't get, and here is the Xana now half as likely to offer a unique synthesized map when offering missions. So when you go in and you find a Xana, I'm kind of curious why they would reduce that by half.
For whatever the reasons, it would make sense. I haven't gone into, I didn't care about synthesis and I never cared about the rewards.
The rewards are great. And when I look at that, I go, man, it kind of sucks if you're an SSF player because the rewards now are much harder to get from those than you getting lucky before. Now it's getting even more lucky because they've been cut in half versus somebody playing in trade can just pick the items up. So It just surprised me.
Well, it's fine to have harder out of reach content. So whatever the reasons were, I'm just telling you I don't like it.
That's all.
I just like to know why. I think it's cool.
It just surprised me. It's not like, I didn't play a ton through the league, but it's not like I saw a huge amount. So I assume there is a reason to it. It just seems weird to me when they do something that, to me, that affects the solo self-found player more than most people.
Yeah.
Right? Because in trade, you can go and buy it. But otherwise, I think it's cool. I love the fact that they're letting you roll maps now for conquerors. I think that's so fun.
Yeah, that's really cool. But in regards to the synthesis thing, there'll still be less on the market. It's 50% less for everybody. So maybe they'll be more expensive based on what the rewards could be. Who knows?
Yep. I just can still get it. It's not, I don't have to wait till I get lucky with it. I can get it. Yeah. And that it's always been that. It's just half is a pretty large amount to cut something by. So it'll be curious to see.
Yeah, a Y would have been nice there. Ritual's been added to core, though. That's pretty awesome. I really liked Ritual, and it'll be cool to have that alongside this league. Mm-hmm. Kind of neat to Ritual style. I'm always going to call these Ultimatums Rituals, though. They kind of started that. You know what I mean? This arena. We'll probably always call them Rituals. But anyway, it's been added, and it'll start. It's not going to start in campaign. It's going to be starting in maps. 8% base chance, like everything else. And they've even added it to the Haywork Hamlet. Is that how you say it? Haywork Hamlet?
You did it.
You and BK aren't going to crush me
Well
on that
done.
one.
Not on that one.
So there'll be a branch of 4 nodes there in the Haywork Hamlet. And even ritual watchstone modifiers. So that's cool for people that do that.
I actually really enjoyed the cool watchstones that they did. So
I didn't get a chance to touch on it this league, so I'm excited to hopefully improve consoles a lot better this go around, and I'll be able to play lots with it.
I wonder why they don't tell you what the 3 bonuses are that they've added to it.
I'm fine with that.
Which is odd. Why not? Like, they've told us stuff before where they've said like these are the effects that it will have on it. So it just seems weird to me that they were like, nah, for ritual you also have to figure it out.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess it is kind of a big re-roll plan. Sure.
It's cool though. You'll find them or not find them. It doesn't really matter. And I'm guessing within like 2 days, we'll have it on PoEDB if you want to actually really look it up. So anyway, Harvest, big changes, obviously, that we already knew about. There's some cool changes in here though.
It's nice to read them specifically compared to the general comments that we had. I mean, they were actually really specific in their, I don't know if it was a dev manifesto or just an announcement before, but when they were talking about how Harvest is going to get changed substantially, they were pretty specific in what they said. But it is nice to read it, the for sure numbers now.
Yeah, some of it means absolutely nothing to me because I don't care. Like, I think it's cool that you can get these new fragments now for a chance off tier 4 to go and fight the boss in there. Doesn't really matter to me. I think the thing that was cool to me reading it, even something that probably won't affect me, is the fact that now the first time you beat the Heart of the Grove, you just unlock 5 horticrafting station slots.
Yeah, once you beat the boss, so you can actually
That's
have 15.
That's kind of cool because there's nothing like that in the game. There's nothing in the game where when you do something, you unlock something else. This is the first thing I can think of. What?
Remember that mysterious Uncharted realms?
Oh yeah, the realms. I guess that's true too. I don't know. I just found this really cool that it unlocks these 5 extra slots.
I guess Legion does that too with the map device.
On the map device, that's right. All right, so there's a few of them, but I think it's cool.
the issue is we haven't done that yet.
There's at least a few.
I mean, we've totally done it, and we totally run people. We do it all the time. It's just a thing we do. But it's nice. It'll be nice for me because I didn't get to experience Harvest a lot because we do co-op. And the Harvest was just wasn't one of those good co-op leagues, unlike Ultimatum, which hopefully is as good as they say. Yeah. So it's nice that Heart of the Grove is now going to be in map areas 60% more per. Well, I don't know if it's more or increased, whatever, but it is there. And that'll also apply to Hazaa with her maps. And minimum of 3 pairs will be in plot groves will be in each instance, which is really cool. Neat. And we've mentioned this before, but I love that the boss is now an itemized boss. You don't have to fight her right there. Right. Yep. You can wait to fight her later on. Yeah, like any boss encounter in the game, really outside of the map bosses, which you're going to encounter anyway. You mentioned the horticrafting thing. Deterministic behavior was removed, or not all deterministic, but the stupid powerful ones.
Anything that was like divine specific, null specific. The one thing that was weird to me, because I don't know enough about how people were using Harvest, this one just surprised me. Again, I look at it again, I guess a little bit more from the solo self-found side, where they removed
self-pound.
Yeah, the self-pound. They removed the ability to craft random Atlas influences onto a non-influenced item, which makes it really hard now if you wanted to get an Atlas influenced item now. I can only think of you being able to do it with those exalts, the Conquer exalts, or you're just farming for something like Shaper, because there's still a craft that allows you to change it. So if you already have one that's got an Atlas influence, there is a craft that lets you just randomly get a new influence and re-roll the whole item. But you can't take an item anymore and turn it into an influenced item through Harvest.
Okay. Because there's another note here that says exalted crafts can only be applied to non-influenced items. So there's probably something that was in there, those two coupled together, where there's probably some sort of loophole in there where people were going And it was probably too easy to get an influenced items mod that they were hoping to get.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know what it would be. I barely touched because, like I said, we didn't do harvest, or I did co-op, so I didn't have control of the towers, right? And then it didn't work this league on console, so all these changes are kind of exciting to me because I still barely touched it. What was another one? They rebalanced the weightings of seeds, which is nice. And I thought it was here, maybe not, but monsters have had their health completely revamped. I must have that note somewhere else. They must have added it somewhere else. Okay.
But yeah, they did make changes to the monster health in there. It's actually a really funny change because I don't do the math side of PoE very well. And when you read their stuff, it's like...
Yeah.
They basically made it
in
even,
this section coming up, old league changes.
But they changed it. Yeah, so other league changes. This is, I'm going to say just right now, this is my favorite part of 100%. The whole patch. Yes. I don't care about Ultimatum. I don't care about all the other stuff. I like it. It's fine. But this part to me where they've rebalanced almost every single league and their specific rewards to now be almost exclusively available in their respective league content.
So cool.
I love it. It actually makes me want to go and do Abyss. Because you and I would talk and I would get so irritated when
you just skip it or accidentally run over it.
Yeah. Sometimes they're too long. I hated going into the depths. I'm like, I don't know why it always irritated me. But now that you know that if you want the Stygian, that's where you're going. If you want some of these. And I'm kind of jumping one little bit here. I love that they're using the well-rolled modifier system for rare Abyss jewels now in the troves.
That's awesome.
That means the Abyss jewels you're getting from those troves have the potential to be better than anything else.
Yeah, it gives you a huge motivation to click on that chest per se, the trove. It's really cool. I remember those troves, they used to be the main play. It was like every single one would drop a Stygian chest in the Abyss League. You remember that?
Stygian Vice,
You'd go down. Yeah, well, yeah, that's right. You'd go into the delve, and then those little troves that they had, you'd almost always get a belt. Almost always.
And I never click them anymore.
Yeah, there's no reason. They're one of those empty chests. But the really nice thing is that all this content can drop everywhere, per se, quote unquote, everywhere, but the drop chances are way higher within the respective content. So
I think some stuff is not everywhere anymore, though. I think they've taken some stuff and it's now exclusively in those leagues.
Some, but for the most part, drops have been made quite global.
But I mean, their thing says some rewards will now be exclusive to the respective leagues.
Some. They didn't specify which ones were only for them, though.
Yeah, I don't really care. I just like that if you want the stuff, you go do that content.
And that makes sense. Honestly, even if some of the stuff wasn't global, most of it wasn't global. It's okay, great. Like now I have to choose in my investment.
At least you know where to go to get
passive. Right, exactly. And now your scarabs have so much more value. I mean, now they have an Abyss scarab.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, they brought in a ton of scarabs.
Oh, so good. It's, to me, those are one of my favorite mapping investments because they're just dummy proof. I'm not doing something complicated that some person that understands the game way better than anyone else has figured out and then everybody's copying. It's something that I can do just as a dummy that loads this free game and being like, oh, Dad's Beasts. Oh, I like that. And, I like it. Blight. Mentioned this last podcast, but now you can, there's a reason.
It's like a real map now.
Right. Well, yeah, a way harder one. But yeah, now you can actually, there's a point to investing and not doing a normal blighted map.
And you can
the quantity modifier applies to blight just. Yeah.
That's terrifying. I love it.
Did you ever oil any maps?
No. When I was reading through what they all did, I was like, huh. Who knew?
I have one of those. Now that oil modifiers that affect maps have been updated, I'm like, updated?
35% increased XP?
Well, to me, no idea. Never even crossed my mind to use oils. I'm thinking like, should I alch this? Should I val this? Okay, that's good. We'll add a scarab. Oh, I forgot my chisels. Okay, let's go. So yeah, that's kind of neat.
I'm excited.
Hopefully I remember. Blight scarabs. Whoop, whoop.
Betrayal has had some really big changes.
Yeah, it has.
We talked about this in our last episode. Like, is this enough is this a big enough change for people to want to kill Katarina now and reset their board? I read this and was like, awesome, I'm going to kill her. There's the fact that they don't lose any ranks when they're interrogated now for mastermind intelligence. So your board might shift, but your dude didn't lose any rank at all for that.
Yeah, that's the division leader, right? Like out of the 4 divisions, just the leader doesn't lose it. Everyone else does, right?
I don't know if they all lose it.
Either way, as long as kill Katarina, even if it's the minor part of that, even if it's just the 4, that's great.
I think
you're
it's
probably
super
going to
fun
want them back.
that it's now, and they've added some extra uniques to it, and it's going to be kind of fun to go back to that fight because I haven't done that fight in forever.
Oh, really?
I haven't touched Katarina. I've
always been apathetic to how it's laid out because I just like adding the content. I get excited for more hard bosses. They're always a pain in the butt. They never worked well on console, but I always liked them. I always did it. I'm like, oh, sweet. I got my syndicate board halfway the way I wanted. Neat. Let's just do the boss and start over maybe, because I could never set it up the way I wanted to. So I got maybe about half there and I'm like, I may as well do her because, well, not do her. May as well kill her because then I'll get a better chance at rolling the, everything I want.
Well, and at least now doing that has less of an impact on your board and the situation. What do you think about all the changes to the unveiling in June?
I think it's great. To me, as I mentioned last podcast, it's still irritating. Like, I think it's great that now unveiled items work the exact same way as dropped items, right? They're the dropped tier. There's always going to be an unreachable crafting tier. That's a drop only tier. Now veiled mods are the exact same thing as a dropped possibility. So I like that. I think it's cool. Gives a little bit more motivation. What, to me, the irritation is, now, maybe this is going to change because of where they're changing where all content comes from. I don't know how you change heist and what heist rewards you in that regard. But literally half of my, well, not literally, who knows, but it feels like almost all or half of my veiled items come from heist.
Right.
I ignore them. And they're the first things I vendor. Most of the time I vendor them anyway because I don't want to have to go to my hideout or create a separate stash tab of only I need to unveil these items when I get back to my hideout. I do a heist, contract, whatever. I normally just vendor them to Faustus, toodles, and then I move on. So until, she's either in heist or I'm only getting them in maps, I'm probably not going to care.
So for me, I do the create a tab and throw the veiled stuff into there. But what usually happened is I never took them out and actually unveiled them.
Oh, okay.
Being able to control click her now straight into the unveil screen is going to be nice.
That is cool.
So you could fill your inventory up. But I think my favorite thing out of the whole, all of it, is that you get this item that has a veiled modifier. And when you unveil it, you get the absolute top roll, the absolute top thing that craft could be, rolls onto that item. And it doesn't count as a crafted modifier. So you can still craft that item.
You're guaranteed the top mod?
Yep. It will always be stronger than any craftable veiled modifier.
Oh, wow.
So I just think that's fun because you have the potential to get an item that has some type of modifier that you maybe need that is always going to be stronger than any crafted veiled modifier. And it doesn't even count as a crafted modifier, which means you can still craft the item.
Yeah.
You'll
lose it on a chaos roll, but it's still nice.
But at least I only lost out on a prefix or a suffix. I didn't now have to figure out how to multi-mod this item or do something silly. I can actually throw one more craft on it. I think that's fun. It makes the veiled items mean something.
Oh, total 100%. I think that'll change in the future, but I think that it'll be awesome for this league. And coupled with that, I thought this was really cool. The weighting of veiled modifiers has been rebalanced in a way that makes modifiers exclusive to one or two types of the equipment more common. So if you're rolling boots, you're pretty likely to get movement speed. That's the first thing I caught. I know other people are going to think of a lot of other things, but
man, you actually bring that up. Veiled boots, unveiled boots have really good potential because if you can roll the uncraftable top tier,
100%.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
And now you're going to start caring about who gives boots, right? You're going to want to fight them in the.
I won't think about that.
Hey, you never know. It's all,
I know.
It's like one league at a time. It'll start clicking. Maybe this will be your betrayal league.
I think this is going to be a league where I will actually pay attention to betrayal. I think it's going to be fun. I think it would be really nice, like you said, if we could see June just pop up in the harbor.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice?
In a corner.
If she's like, oh, hey, I see you got some. Oh, that's neat. She had her own little portal. She just pops up.
She kind of fits in to that whole vibe.
All you have to do is write like a 2-sentence lore thing, like
just be like,
hey,
I got
Faustus
on the boat.
And her
what
used
happened?
to date. Yeah, that's
she
right.
She just snuck away.
I got lost. I'm still looking for revenge. Actually, what else I'm going to be really interested in this league is bestiary. Is it bestiary or bestiary?
Bestiary.
I don't know. Yep. Should I ask Google?
Are you? No, they'll be wrong. It'll be embarrassing.
They added 10 new beast crafting recipes.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I've always wanted, and this is going to sound silly, I use it for the most basic primitive thing. I have never seen a boss in bestiary, but I never remember to do it. And every league, I'm like, oh, I got to do this. Every league now, ever since it went into core, I'm still using 100 alterations to freaking try and find my staunching flask, which has been improved this league. And I never even remember to just do the little craft that gives me a staunching flask. I never remember. So now that they've added 10 new beast crafting recipes, I'm hoping it'll stick in my head to actually do it. They also added a kind of a neat map thing. I'm curious if this will be added to more content later on. Party members that are not the map creator now have to be within 250 unit radius. Nobody knows what that means. So they said that's roughly 2 screens, probably normal screens, not ultra wide screens. Party members have to be within 250 unit radius of a captured beast in order for it to be added to their menagerie. Menagerie or menagerie?
Menagerie.
I like menagerie.
Yeah. It's cool.
Whatever. It's neat. I mean, there's no way you'll actually be able to know that in map, but that's neat.
Yeah.
Whatever. Blessings are awesome.
Oh my gosh, I love this.
Blessings and oh, Justin, I forgot to add all my Reddit notes. Oh, they're adding this stuff to tabs. I remember this from my Reddit notes. Someone, yeah, hang on.
No, I don't need you to prove it to me. So you're telling me that they said somewhere that upgraded.
They're improving stash tabs. Yeah, they said that somebody actually reposted something or they like mentioned to Bex and then the community team. Yeah, stash tabs are getting updated for this league. For sure.
Huh.
And they specifically, as far as I remember the note, they mentioned these the breach league items.
The shard tab is going to be the ugliest tab in the game.
That'd be interesting. I mean, now that they have so many different ways to apply and influence your map and craft your maps, it's almost like they should completely reorganize all their stash tabs, but you can't really do that because people bought them for specific reasons.
Yep, that definitely won't happen. I don't see that happening, but it'll be interesting to see what they do.
New and improved stash tabs that are just re-themed, and then you can choose to get those if you want. But either way, blessings are there, and hopefully, if I didn't misread the note, they're being added to our tabs.
I didn't care at all about the delirium changes.
I think it's great.
Whatever.
Changes are changes. Great. Delve got a cool rebalance for the lower levels.
I think Delve's way more exciting. Only because I'm not a delver that's going to like super deep depths of, whatever people must have been doing. So the idea that maybe I have a chance of some more fun rewards, I'll take it.
Totally. I like the idea of delve, but I find every time I delve, I don't like it. I just can never see. It's too busy. Everything's so cluttered. I don't know where I'm supposed to be. It's just not visually okay for me as the user. And I don't like it when I move from section to section. My mods, the map mods per se, change. So anything that makes the experience better, I'm excited about because it's something that in my head I say I like, but every time I do it, I grumble. So I think it's great. Essences. Woo! Yay. Some got buffed. I'm a minion guy. The minion stuff didn't get touched, but that's fine. That's because minions are just the best. So who needs to touch them?
Yeah, but overall, they were relatively boring. Heist got just a buff to how fast you level up your rogues, which makes sense.
Perfect.
Otherwise, no changes to Heist, but...
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm curious how different league content will drop in there.
It's true.
They didn't mention anything, but I'm assuming with this complete rebalance, that's a place where I would get the stuff that I never see from other leagues.
Yeah, you probably still would, because there's specific chests, right? Like specific rooms that you're going towards. You couldn't cut that out without absolutely killing heist. There's no more delirium rooms. There's no more.
Totally.
So-
Yeah. No reason for a grandmaster contract thingy.
Mm-hmm.
What about Incursion?
Oh my gosh, I actually don't mind Incursion. This actually looks like a lot of fun. I love. Okay, there's so much to go into with Incursion. We talked about this last week.
So you ramble.
Well, go ahead. You tell me what yours was.
Monsters killed progress bar has been updated slightly. Now you can see it better. I like it.
Cool.
Because I never see it.
I never found it hard to see before.
I can never. I don't zoom, so I don't get to the monsters in time anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So we talked a little bit about this last episode, but I love the fact that they're making the temple tradable, so that if you don't want to do it, you can still create it and sell it. But the changes they've made to the temple to me seem like so much more fun to run. I love that there's changes to the types of monsters. The rooms changed the boss. The boss has different drops. The rooms interact differently now. I actually think it's a lot of fun. And it was never the temple itself that I didn't like about Incursion. It was the same as you.
It was the Incursion.
It was the building of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was always, for me, it was always during the leveling part that it frustrated me more than anything. So I don't know. I just think it's super fun to see these changes now and have these rooms change and have the mobs that are inside it change. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I don't see myself selling it. I see myself running it.
Oh, that's interesting for you. You're quite the market player, so that's cool. I'm excited to see, I mean, this is probably a better note for at the end of the podcast, but I'm excited to see how all these changes couple together for an overall experience. You know what I mean? Like, I can say I don't like this and don't like that, or I'm really excited about this, but it'll be interesting to see how it actually flows together in an experience, because one complaint is not my complaint. I love this about the game. I hear other people saying, "Oh, there's too much going on. There's too much to learn. There's too much to focus on. You have to spend 8 hours a day to do all the content you want to." I like that there's content that I have to choose between, that I have to focus on. That's why I'm a standard player, so I can get to it eventually. So it's interesting to see, like, so much of this is interesting now, including Alva. For me, that's a big deal. And so it's interesting. Where do you go? What do you do? There's just so much to look around for. And I may as well try this. Oh, let's try this. I'm not going to get anywhere.
You said that, for a new player, it's a lot to learn. And up until this point, there was no reason to. There was no benefit to going and running a temple. There was no benefit to going and doing some of the Abyss stuff, because you could get the stuff anywhere. So now there's like a reason to learn and figure out, how do I set up Alva? How do I play Betrayal? Because there's specific rewards now in those areas. I think that's really cool.
And I'm sure we'll find all that information in the help section of the game.
Yeah. Legion changes.
More incubators. I didn't actually know incubators were a Legion thing. I guess they were coupled with it. That's like I guess it's the drop. I never pay attention to where they go. I just end up having them in my inventory. So,
yep, it's cool.
But that's, more incubators and then more incubator mods or drops. So love that. They're one of my favorite things in the game. Just slap them on your character and away you go.
It was really funny because one of the incubators, I have always liked them. I throw them on because they're just free stuff. But
progress bars, Justin. Progress bars are the best.
No, don't give me a progress bar in the 99th percentile of it being done, though. You know what I mean? It is kind of funny because sometimes by the time it pops up, if it's a shorter one, it's already done. But the Enchanted Incubators, why is the note for Enchanted Incubators can now drop items with an enchantment from the Eternal Labyrinth? What did they drop before? What enchant were they?
Can you read that again?
Enchanted Incubators can now drop items with an enchantment from the Eternal Labyrinth. Didn't they always do that?
Maybe you only got an offering of the goddess?
No, I remember seeing items that had... Is the Eternal Labyrinth the Uber version? Is that what it's called, maybe?
Oh, maybe.
Is Eternal Labyrinth... Maybe that's why?
Maybe it's a new
Maybe it couldn't drop Uber enchants before. Anyway.
Metamorph bosses are harder. They deal more damage, but have 80% more health. So that's cool.
Well, that's only the ones that you create.
Yeah. Great.
Which is cool.
Sorry, I should have specified that. That's from Tane's laboratory.
Which is good. It was needed. It was weird to go in there and just like kill a fluff ball when that boss you had fought earlier had like made you sweat and freak out. So that is cool.
I think bosses boss battles need to be eternal. They need to be really long.
Well, I don't know about eternal.
I don't want them to be like busy in terms of me having no idea what's happening. I hate those battles, whether it's boss battles or just in a normal map. But I always love boss battles. I want boss battles to last a while.
Yep, and they brought in some new catalysts. Again, I don't really care about them. It'll be interesting to see if you see enough of them. But
yeah,
Brandis was whatever.
Well, this one kind of pisses me off.
The only way that it's got to be pissing you off is that you can't sell them anymore. That seems so weird to me. Why?
No, it doesn't say you can't sell them. It says they don't offer scrolls of fragment anymore when you vendor them.
So you have to keep them. You get nothing.
They turn in for something else.
Nothing. Blank space.
Well, at least there's a spot in the inventory for them finally. Wouldn't that happen 4 leagues ago?
I refuse to pay attention to Brandis until they make him drop as one single clickable item.
Here's the thing. Chris's comment, unintentionally, of course, by him, really made me mad because it seemed like he's never seen a Parandis drop before. When who did the interview? Ziggy. When Ziggy said, "Hey, 15 stacks of Parandis coins is too much. Like, are you going to be improving that?" And Chris is like, "Well, yeah, if 15 is too much." So it's like he's never seen a Parandis drop in his life.
12 we're okay with.
Yeah, that's right. 14 and then 0.5. So I was watching BK just yesterday, and every single Parandis thing she had on her stream, 1,000 different stacks of 5, 10, 20, whatever.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Just so irritating. So now it says sources of Parandis coins have had their counts normalized.
It doesn't say anything, though, about them dropping properly.
No, but goodness, like, how are we not at they just all drop together? Or, okay, fine, I don't care what the developer has to say about it. If you are going to keep it so that 1,000 overall drop throughout, from that one chest, can you just do something about it? If you don't want that part to change, could you at least just, smush them all together for the user?
Or you pick up one and you pick up them all by picking up that one.
Yeah, they're
so simple. Yeah,
I don't know how to make it, but at the end of the day,
games out there have it.
Right. That's my point. I don't care if it's simple or not. Make it good.
Yeah, it's annoying.
Yeah.
Okay, so Synthesis had, I don't care, the changes. I didn't even know they had a visual effect.
They do. I always thought they were influenced. I remember the first time I saw a Synthesis item, I thought it was one of the new influences.
Well, you were talking about that from the border look. I took this to be like the glow, 3D effect when you were holding them.
Oh, maybe. I never look at that part. I thought this was talking about once they're in your inventory and you're looking at it.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
On your hex. It has like a white blue
it's like a
glow
bluey
coming from it. If they don't have that, if that's what they're talking about and that's not there anymore, I'm never going to know that it's fractured ever. I'm going to look at it and be like,
when you mouse over it.
That's a mod I never saw before. Like, I'm not going to know its value if there's not something shiny on it. So, and Talismans, we'll see how this goes. Maybe they'll change it back. Talismans no longer drop using the well-rolled modifier system.
Yeah, I personally still think that's a silly decision, but I don't care. It is what it is.
I think them having the well-rolled modifier system on Abyss Jewels is really smart. So we'll see. Maybe it'll come back. There, it's easy to do. That was a big section though, but that's awesome.
Labyrinth Changes.
Yeah.
Did you notice the one thing that I asked about in our last episode is written in here? That when you use the goddess, offering to the goddess, you don't get one when you finish it, which that makes way more sense to me. It seemed insane to me to think that you could get one and then just loop them eternally until you had all of them done. So I do actually prefer this way because it doesn't make it so that once you find one, you're basically unlocked Uber.
But it's so awesome, just the general fact that you can now just put an offering of the goddess and you get a random trial. Great. Like, I still hate the trials, but goodness me, now I don't have to, think that I missed it in a map, or, you know what I mean? Now, here's something though. How do you know if you have it or not? I've always wanted them in your hideout to have that goddess station, whatever it is, so you can actually see which ones you do or don't have. Or at least have it as a keyboard shortcut, something so that you know what you have and maybe isn't a nice, or maybe have it as a free hideout decoration like your stash tab, like your map device. Have the offering of the goddess thing there. So if you want, you can put it out. You can see which ones you need.
And that actually makes sense in this particular case more than anything, because let's say one rolls in your map and you already have it and you don't know it. At least when you finish it, you'll get the offering. Whereas now this is, you put it into your map device and you don't know if you have it or not. And if you did have it, you get nothing by completing it. So yeah, that is a good call. You're gonna have to actually like write it down. We're back to sheets and Excel spreadsheets now.
Oh, you know
the
what?
Labyrinth
That's old
is the new
school
Alma.
gaming. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then the crafting is awesome. The new enchants.
Interacting
so cool.
with the divine font will now display a window with available enchantments. Awesome.
I am still really curious to see it because I have not heard anybody be able to answer this with a for sure answer. When you get like twice enchanted, do you pick 2 from that current list, or once you use one, does it refresh? I'm really curious to see what happens.
Yeah, if you have 6 or 3, then 3.
Yeah. Do you go from 6 and now you have 5 and you can only pick from the ones you're still picking from that same list, or does it refresh it?
Yeah. I'm sure it's out there. I'm sure someone already answered it, but either way.
From what I understand, Chris's answers have not been consistent, so nobody seems to know for sure.
Oh, so. That's all right. And you know what? It'll probably change to be whatever it is. It's not like that's something that they'd be a stick in the mud about. And then the daily Labyrinth ladder has been retired.
Yep.
What's that?
It was basically whoever completed it first got that unique jewel. So they're removing that now. There used to be like a race.
Completed what first? Like every day? Daily Labyrinth ladder.
Whatever
so
character
if you did
completed the lab first each day would get a unique jewel.
Oh, interesting.
And that's just now been added as a rare reward from the chest.
So that's real time zone benefit.
Yeah, I guess so. It was.
Wonder when the day rolls
weird.
over. When does the day roll over in this
5,
game?
I think. Our time.
PM?
It's like 4 or 5 p.m. our time.
Huh. Oh, that's perfect for our time zone. Dang it. Wish I knew.
Yeah, you'd be racing through it, I'm sure.
Anyway, as I think Zizrin put it on Twitter, with these lab changes, this is a buff. That's awesome.
Okay, speaking of buffs, did you read the character balance section?
Yeah.
I'm sure you have comments. Now, let me just say, because I don't. I'm not going to say anything, because maybe it was my mental state when I read through this section.
Well, you're always a negative, Nancy.
No, this isn't negative. This is a section that I think of myself as a relatively smart person, but when I start to read these, I go, what the fuck, man? Like, you're just using words. There's so many words. There's so many. I'm not going to read it, but it just cracked me up. When I read the very second one about cost and reservation systems for skills and how they used to use mana and life and blah, 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 I started reading through that. I was like, how could this not have been put into one sentence? I don't understand. It was like, I gave up. I was like, forget it. I'm not doing this section.
So you know what I wrote for that? I said, for some reason, I couldn't wrap my head around this. So I'll have to see it in gameplay and then reread it.
I reread it before we started. And to be honest, it does make sense. You just have to break it down sentence, like spread it out. We need double space, room for notes. You can't just read this at once. When I read it, I was like, oh my God, I feel like an idiot right now.
Can you help me figure it out as the idiot in the group? So here's what we're talking about, though. The cost and reservation system for skills has been extensively reworked to add new options.
Okay, all they're basically talking about is before you had a mana cost or a life cost, or you had maybe a they were talking about like the Val soul costs. And now they're basically just changing the wording to just be a cost, because it could be something that you're having to pay life and mana, or they don't want, it's basically their way of generically changing it so that it's not anymore a specific type of cost. It's just cost. Oh,
they're just changing the term to be generic.
That's right. And so when I read it afterwards, I was like, oh, okay. But again, I was like, you guys, you did this just to make me look stupid. Because
it was one of the devs that's been in the office too long.
But I will say the one thing out of all of it that I did really like is the reserving mana. When you're putting on like an aura or something, you don't have to wait for the mana to refill anymore. And that's really nice, because sometimes
they don't
you
actually have a
turn it
cost
off
anymore.
Right.
Yeah, they don't have a cost. They just reserve a percentage.
Yeah. And if you, that's nice, because I have before bumped and turned off an aura. And if you have no mana regen, Now you're like, oh, frick, I gotta go back to my hideout to get my mana back up so I can turn my aura back on. So I like that.
And for you, because you die so much, it's always your last portal you use up.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
The low threshold for life mana and ES is now 50 instead of 35. That's like, I like it in terms of all that cool theory crafting you can do. But I mean, all you need to do is put on, like, it's 50 and lower. So you could just put on pride, hatred. You're automatic, like 150% aura.
Yeah, but you had a plan around that because you now have 50% health. You have half your health, so.
No, but it's also for mana and ES. So if there's any kind of fancy way to be low life with mana, like that's, I don't know. Anyway, it just seems like 50 is a high number to be considered low. So, I mean, it'll take my, it's not a complaint. It's just like, wow, that's going to be hard to wrap my head around for a while because it doesn't seem like that. Let's see, what else was there? Leech. Did you read anything about Leech?
I told you I read this stuff and was like, meh.
Well, to me, Leech went from one untrackable math to another. Like, it's impossible to know your in-game, to know your Leech limit, what the next node is going, how it's going to improve your Leech. If you're already at your cap, you have no idea. They basically kept it the same, but now it's different. I do like all the changes to Corrupted Blood. It's weird. It's going to be really hard to get used to, but I'm sure that both of these tags will be expanded in the future. Obviously, Bleed is already its own tag and has a lot of options and got touched on. But Corrupted Blood isn't a bleed anymore. It's just scary. Physical damage over time.
That's really scary. That makes Cyrus even scarier.
Yes and no.
No, yes. It's just a yes.
Because the Staunching Flask still gets rid of both Corrupted Blood and Bleed.
I don't think Staunching will get rid of Corrupted Blood.
Yeah. It specifically says Corrupted Blood applies to monster. It says of Staunching will apply to both. And the flask will be updated to specify.
Huh. I don't see where it says it will apply to both, but that's fine.
Control F of Staunching.
Yeah, I'm staring right at it. Modifiers that affect both bleeding and corrupted blood, such as the staunching modifier, will have descriptions updated. So does that mean staunching should remove corrupted blood?
That's what it makes it sound like, unless they're coming out with a new modifier that'll be specifically for corrupted blood. Either way, I'm glad that it's still flaskable. But so it's not a bleed, but it is physical damage over time. And what else is physical damage over time that isn't bleed? Is it just that? I couldn't think of anything else.
I don't know, but they made other changes to the trees and to some of the ascendancies to not be focused on bleed anymore. So I assume there's something.
Yeah. Now, I know for us, there was a limit, but I didn't know for monsters if there was one or not. But apparently now, corrupted blood across the board, there's a max stack of 10. Do you know what it was before?
Nope, I don't.
Oh, okay. Well, it's nice to know that there's actually, And now corrupted blood applied by monster modifiers now have different values. These values are calculated based on the monster rarity as opposed to their main head damage. That's cool. So hopefully Cyrus's corrupted blood has been really brought down, unless Cyrus is a unique version of a unique monster.
Yeah.
I don't remember. There's only two other I can think of. It's so stupid that they have corrupted blood while you're leveling. Who is that? Like Avarius or whatever, the guy that turns into Innocence or dies and Innocence was in. Right. To have corrupted blood while you're leveling?
If Staunching takes it off, that's not as big of a deal anymore. It's crazy to me if they make corrupted blood as easy to take off as Staunching, though. That would be really surprising. It was like that
before. You could use a Staunching before when it was considered bleed.
I don't feel like it ever worked with the Cyrus
was so strong. Well, it's just so strong. Most of the time, if you couldn't already tank it, you were going to be too slow to hit the button anyway. Yeah, so there it is. But I thought it's going to be a lot to wrap my head around. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be changed a few times as it balances out, because that's a massive thing that people focus on in terms of Cyrus, right? So it'll be interesting to hear people's feedback.
All right, let's get into some skill balances. What ones stood out to you? Because there were quite a few.
Yeah, and there were a lot of changes, and I'm not going to point out all the nerfs. A lot of these were mentioned ahead of time, and I'd like to point out, though, like some of these are going to be really discouraging for some people. Some were even surprising to me. Like, I didn't even know that Toxic Rain was that overpowered. I just thought it was a skill that was that versatile. So some of these got brought down quite a good notch, but to me, GGG has so many more stats, and say they see the way players were abusing things, and they're so creative in how they can keep, lower or increase value. Anyway, I think GGG is really balancing it out well. I was actually really surprised that Earthquake wasn't on there. Earthquake was one of the most used skills last league, and it wasn't touched as far as I know. I mean, Valor Earthquake was, but the normal Earthquake wasn't. But skills I cared about that I like to use, I mean, I don't actually use Blade Vortex, but I always think about using it. That got hit pretty hard. AoE, duration, and damage were all lowered. So that's kind of a big deal. I love Blade Storm, because that's kind of just a normal AoE that I can use without having to specifically click on enemies, which I like. That's a real bleed focus now. It has up to 108% more damage with bleed.
Yeah, well, you're in Blood sounds is cool.
It is, yeah, but it's weird because the skill technically hits 4 times. So the initial hit is low because you can get up to 3 storms. But bleed is only applied once unless you're using that keystone that lets you apply it 8 times. So it's an interesting, the storms are pointlessly going to have bleed but at the same time, that's a skill where you don't really want your storms to do bleed, even if you're doing, what's that keystone that gives you 8? I know what you're talking about. Yeah, so it's that keystone that makes it so that whether enemies are moving or not doesn't matter. You do 50% less bleed damage, but you get to apply it 8 times. You don't want your storms to do that because they're dealing less damage. And it's all about stacking the damage. So it's like you hit once with your storm or with your, whatever it is, with your blade, right? The initial spin, and then you get 3 storms. I don't know. It just seems like it's conflicting with it. It seems neat, though. I'm curious to see how people abuse it. Flesh and Stone was one that I use a ton of, and they increased its mana reservation by 10% to 35%.
You still use it. I saw that. I was like, yeah, you'll be fine.
You could couple it with other things. You could still squeak something in, and now you can't. I'm curious how much MAME support was linked to it a lot. I'm curious how much more mana it's going to cost. Now I can't do the math in my head. So it's interesting. Just as long as you can still use Pride, Flesh and Stone, and MAME support all in the same.
You just need
if you can do that, then fine.
What's that? The tier 4. What is that blue gem called? I can't even think of it.
Empower?
Decreases the cost. No, the other one.
Enhance?
Nope. One more. What is the blue one?
I don't know.
I'm losing it. Anyway, you can do it with those.
Yeah, great. I'll be right on that.
I saw some of them, and I know people were complaining about it. I heard people talking about it. They weren't that bad. Some of the stuff that they took down a bit needed to be, because it's used almost exclusively by 80% of the player base.
I think Blade Blast got cut right in half.
I looked at Blade Blast. It was like it looks like it's about a 25% nerf. That's fine. It will still be just fine. And Toxic Rain, I think the actual bigger concern to me with Toxic Rain is that they, instead of them nerfing the damage in some way, they increase the spread, which has a big effect on how you play Toxic Rain, because you can't overlap them anymore. If they're all spread out, trying to control that damage to a condensed area becomes almost impossible, especially because area of effect modifiers now make them even wider. So I can see it just be more difficult to play.
Yeah, or you change your play style. Did you or invest differently? Blade Blast, did it get its AoE changed? Its AoE is massive.
Nope, it didn't. Blade Blast?
Wow,
no.
See, to me, that's the most powerful aspect of the build. The constantly overlapping explosions.
It had its added damage effectiveness was reduced by 10%, but that's not typically how you're scaling Blade Blast anyway. So that one doesn't really have a big impact. And the damage coming down to me makes total sense.
Huh.
It's a really, really strong skill.
Yeah. So yeah, it was used by a ton of people.
The one that cracked me up, we talked about this just as we got started, is I didn't know Vitality needed a nerf. I was surprised. I was like, what? Didn't they just change it to being better? And now they're like, no, that was too much.
It's weird. It didn't seem like a lot.
No.
Like when I use my Righteous Fire build, I don't need it at all. It's nice to have the flat regen, but goodness, like when you're looking at doing a Chieftain with RF, you're looking at 1200 life regen.
Yep. And what was the percentage of Vitality?
30. Well, it's like Clarity now and Precision.
Oh, right.
So
That's
it's
right.
a flat mana cost. Yeah. So General's Cry got touched a bit, and it kind of made me mad. It's another one of those
gem descriptions that is either incorrect or really needs tweaking. And hopefully it's not me and me misreading it, because General's Cry says the mirages that the skill creates hit once, and that's it. So even if you want to do something like Glacial Hammer, where you get the third hit does the most damage, you can't use it, right? Or it doesn't make sense to. So General's Cry does one hit. But at some point, one hit means they can channel? That's weird to me. So apparently these mirages with one hit would channel a skill for 1 second and then disappear. To me, that's not one hit. Anyway, now that they can channel, they can only channel 0.6 seconds instead of 1 second, which still completely conflicts with the one hit specification in the gem description, but whatever. I'm not pissed. Stupid theory crafting.
And Wave of Conviction got a bit of a buff too. So I think that's just nicer for leveling.
Yeah, and Frostbomb was mentioned in the dev manifesto, but it wasn't mentioned in the patch notes.
Yeah, it is.
Apparently both... It is?
Yep.
Frostbomb?
Cold exposure was reduced by 10%.
Oh, I didn't even see it. Oh, okay. Yeah. So anyway, Wave of Conviction and
Wave of
Frostbomb to me are like cast when damage taken level 1 skills. You just use them for the exposure. So that was lowered. I don't like it, but it makes perfect sense. They shouldn't be... You should be getting your really strong exposure from something that requires more investment. So
yeah, and you're still getting 15%. So
yeah,
it's at least still something.
It all helps. And what else? I actually laughed about this because it was last league that that golems and specters got hit really hard. I think it was 313 at the beginning.
They did not like carrying golems.
And this league again, they got hit. So
it was needed. It was needed though.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm like, yeah. I mean, I know I'm the type of player where I'm like, yeah. Well, GGG knows what they're doing, but that's crazy that 2 leagues in a row they got hit.
And I bet you they're still super popular, even with this. It's an 11% decrease.
Totally.
People will be just fine.
Either way, yeah, that was that. Those are the ones that stood out to me anyway. None of my. Some of the supports I use, like the exposure ones, vitality, those are ones that I use. General Cry I've theory crafted a lot with. And I just got irritated that I didn't know that you could channel with them. So, they'll do a little bit more, but it was neat.
Val skills.
Shut it. I was rambling and you interrupted my rambling.
We need to move you on. Val skills. There is only one that I really care about in here. And it's probably what is making me decide what I'm going to play for this league.
Val Earthquake?
No.
Why?
It's another slam skill.
What? I didn't write any slam skills down. I didn't care.
Slam.
You're going to use ground slam?
Yep. So the Val attack now can be exerted, which it could not be before. You can store up to 4 uses of it, and the damage was massively increased in the Val
4
slam.
uses for a Val skill?
Yeah, it was previously 3. You can store up to 4. The base attack damage at level 1 was increased by 60% and then 100% at level 20, from 300 to 400%.
Could you use the stacks without a cooldown? Or did you still need to use the cooldown, but it didn't matter if you had accumulated the souls?
No, if you had them built up, you could use them.
So you could go bam, 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 bam.
Oh, and soul gain prevention was dropped down to 1 second instead of 2. So you only have to wait for a second. Oh, I'm doing ground slime for sure.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. I'm excited to see it.
I think that's what I'm going to play.
Please choose a visually aesthetic,
whatever's
not overwhelming MTX. So Celestial.
I actually think one thing that's cool with this being sort of that Val themed league, I don't think almost any of the Val skills I saw seemed like a nerf. They all actually seemed like they were getting some really fun buffs.
Yeah. They didn't cut any down. They just brought the less used ones up.
Except Righteous Fire.
Yes, very true. I do have that one.
Everybody took Val Righteous Fire. It didn't matter what your build was. People took it because it was so cheap to cast and so much increased damage. So I think it's good.
Kind of wish it was based off of investment somehow. I don't know how you would do it, but I wish that they changed its multiplication damage to how much you had in its supports already, because people would have it in their build just for the flat damage it did. But they wouldn't actually 4-link it. It would just be 1 socket. You know what I mean? But if you use Val Righteous Fire as your primary skill, or Righteous Fire and have Val Righteous Fire as your primary skill, this sucks. And for what? Like, it's not like it was overpowered for the Righteous Fire character. It was overpowered for the non-righteous fired characters.
Well, it's
but
kind
now
of everyone though. I mean, you're still getting the benefit as an RF character. It's just,
yeah, but I have it in a 6 link. I have it in a 5 link. It's supposed to be huge. It's a Val skill. Now it's like a meh skill. I mean, maybe
it's still decent,
not.
but it's definitely got cut down by quite a bit.
It is. So, but now like it's a really high risk skill still because of how much life it takes when you're doing it.
I think they should have kept the damage high, but did what they did with regards to the sacrifice. Because if you are an RF character, you have a massive amount of life regen. So even if you took a 60% hit, you were going to regen it way faster than somebody else who was only losing 30% and it wasn't the end of the world.
Yeah.
For that massive increase in damage.
Oh, and I totally agree. I mean, you still, and the nice thing about that sacrifice of life is you still have to be careful no matter your life regen. Because if you get hit, a big hit right at the time you hit the button, you know, it's still like, oh shoot, there's my loss. Oh no, now I'm dead. I can't tell you how many times I've killed myself with Val RF by being an idiot.
You didn't ever plan like Val RF with like a life flask or something that was going to boost your life?
Oh, totally. But
just unlucky.
No, it's just stupidity. It would be like, I know this is coming. I want to get the skill off before no, they beat me to it. So, but yeah, every time I hit Val RF, every time I hit Y, because, you know, everybody plays console, it was always YLB all the time. So, but the nice thing about the skill now is there's a lot less of a wait time. I think it was halved. It went from like 10 to 6 or something like that seconds.
Yeah. Your soul prevention was 6 instead of 12, which is sweet.
Yeah. And then one of my favorite Val skills, I loved that it wasn't touched or mentioned. Val Skeletons is crazy strong and it wasn't touched. Absolutely love it.
There was one more that stood out to me that if I ever got into trying it, I would like to check out and that's Ice Nova. Because the damage
I didn't even look at it.
Quite a bit bigger with it. But I'm definitely going slams. But that was another one that stood out to me.
Nice. One of my favorite changes was just to Val skill gems in general. I'm going to read it because I'm going to screw it up. Val skill gems can now only be obtained from a set of specific methods such as corrupting gems, Val side areas, and div cards. Oh, and dang, a word I don't know in my own language.
Lapidary lens.
Lapidary lens in the Temple of Azawadal.
I'm like that you read the updated version of that because the first version didn't say that you could corrupt the gems. And I was like, wait a minute. You can only get it from Val. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, but I love that. They would drop like crazy before, but now I love like they've really made Val areas really cool because Val skill gems, for the most part, likely across the board now, are tempting. I still don't know why, and I wish I didn't. Maybe, I don't know, I'm probably not scared of them, but maybe I am, and I shouldn't say it out loud. But from the old way that the Val side areas were, I would just hug the right like I do my map until I got to the side, until I got, to the boss, killed the boss, get the stuff, and leave. I never clear it like an actual map, and I don't know why. So hopefully this incentive to get that Val gem that I want gets in there. And you know what? I always forget every league. For you new people that are powering through this, just like the Offering of the Goddess can now open up a trial for the last, I don't know, what is it, 4 leagues? Maybe forever for all I know. You could put a Val sacrifice fragment in your map device and it automatically opens up a Val area.
Yeah, that's been for a long time.
Has it been a long time or just since they added to maps?
No, it's been a bit.
Okay, so they just added it and you're welcome.
Recently.
Yeah.
All right, can we move on?
Sure.
Passive tree balance.
You missed support gem balance. There was one, the brutality was in there.
You don't have to hit every point. Some points are useless. And did you care about that?
Well, no, I didn't. I just wanted to say I didn't care about it. And you ruined it.
Very good. Passive tree balance?
Yeah, I have something.
Okay, so you probably will know more about this or be more into this than me. These things to me are useless because I want to see it I want to see it in POB or I want to see it on the tree.
I'm excited to be smart. Do you have any questions?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, no, I didn't have much to say. I see that they're neat, but for the most part, I wait till the trees are updated on whatever third-party tool. And I wish they were available from GGG ahead of time. I think that would be really neat. Instead of requiring third-party people to help you character plan ahead of time. That's kind of weird. But there was something I want to point out. Do you know what crushing enemies is?
The only thing I can think of is it has something to do with that whole crushing thing that came on helmets last league. The you are crushed, which meant
And it
you
says
had
something
no
about
armor. I think.
40% increased damage or something on there. It's right beside it. Anyway, that's a tag that I'm not familiar with, but I saw that there, crushing enemies for 4 seconds. One change that I did really like, though, was the small nodes at the Scion starting location that used to only give melee damage. Now it's no longer restricted to melee. So maybe it's just increased damage. I think that's great. There are some builds when I'm trying to start as a Scion, or at least Theorycraft as a Scion. I'm like, my first 5 nodes are garbage for this build. It just doesn't fit. So it's nice because I think those are on the way to the Constitution cluster of all that crazy life, if I remember correctly.
So Atlas passive balance, we kind of talked about whether or not we thought they would make some changes. They did. Not as many as I thought they would, but they did make some.
Well, it was a big list. Every
It wasn't a
region
big
got
mix-up,
touched.
though. I thought it was going to
no.
be a much bigger like jumble like they do to the Atlas with regards to maps. This wasn't as big as I was expecting. Like it almost seems like 50-50. Half stayed in their zones and half moved, but some are new, so they had to move. But
Yeah, I don't think you can move too much because you want to rebalance the stats to see if it's working properly. You know what I mean? And you're redoing harvest and you're adding ritual. So I could see them saving moves for once they're happy with their numbers. Like, you know what I mean? So it makes sense to me. To me, I'm the kind of person where they didn't really stand out to me. I'm going to invest in the content that I like, whether I like the changes or not. Right.
And I have planning ahead.
And it's always going to be in comparison to what else is in the tree. So if, for example, I still probably not going to like Alva. So if Alva dominates one of the regions, I'm going to pick the other stuff. I like strong boxes. Going to do that, you know.
All right.
To me, they're just bonus coins. So the additions are additions. What? Move on.
Ascendancy balances. So I actually don't really care. There were 2 things that I found fun in these.
Oh,
interesting.
I have 2 too.
One is that they're doing this big change from damage with bleeding to now calling everything physical damage over time. So I was actually talking to Ethan about it before we started. I feel like some of these things are for all other future changes too. When I'm reading some of these changes, I go, I feel like they've got something coming, or they're making some plans for something, which is fine.
Sure thing.
And the Pathfinder getting to remove corrupted blood every time they use a flask. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yes. Yes. So neat. Any flask.
Yeah.
You get removes corrupted blood. That's not bleed.
I still wouldn't play a Pathfinder, but that's cool that they can do it.
Pathfinder's
not until I have a single
me.
click flask. Give me a 1 click to hit all my flasks, then I'll play them. But until then, nope.
Try just using life flasks. Just
nope.
I always got a flask going. Always.
Any of these other ones stand out to you?
So the Pathfinder one, the Master Surgeon that you mentioned, yes. I'm curious if that's in addition to, or if they removed one. They didn't mention removing any, so maybe it's just in addition to.
Yeah, I don't remember what the actual wording for Master Surgeon was.
I think that one also got rid of bleed before, so maybe that gets rid of both. Elementalist, Bastion of Elements got hit a little bit. I mean, it was crazy strong. I had, 30 notables in my Righteous Fire Elementalists, so that was a lot of elemental damage that it would negate. The Elementalist now, it's 75 instead of 100 in terms of how much elemental damage it'll negate per notable,
which is still
per notable you have in the tree. Oh yeah, it's tons. It's free elemental damage mitigation. But actually, yeah, out of all the stuff, I've never really bothered with Slayer or Berserker, so everything else is pretty minor to me.
Item balance.
This I actually don't care about, but I smiled because it was such a go-to within the community.
The explodey chest.
Yeah, the exploding chest
great.
Changed. It's smart to make it a chance to explode, which every other aspect of the game to explode enemies is all chance based. So you went from a guaranteed explosion, just 100% explosion chance when you killed an enemy, to now it's a chance.
Also, go back to the league before Harvest, and from that period prior, there wasn't like an item that everybody chased besides Headhunter, which was whatever.
But that's the design of Headhunter.
Yeah, exploding chest just became a thing. It became way too easy. It became way too focused. And I love that to me, this isn't even like a replacement. This is great. They really just took it out and they were like, well, we got like this version of it, but you might not want it because it's taking up other crafting slots. So I think it's great. I really like it.
Yeah, I totally agree.
A lot of the other changes when I read, I was like, what? Okay. Like this can't roll this anymore. This doesn't have this modifier. I am not that person at all that I know all of the different things that can do what they can do and how they can roll. So I read through this and I was like, okay, let's see. I love that in my head. I'm going, yeah, it seems fair. That seems fair.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're pretending that we're the kind of people who are like,
oh, good choice.
That'd be bad
good
for
choice.
this build. I remember my 6th build last league. Okay, that'll impact that one.
There wasn't anything that seemed exciting to me or that I cared about.
This one irked me. It's a good change, but it needs to be in the game more, especially after you and icing some of the QOL from last epoch. Unique blight items that have been anointed now show their passive skill information when hovered. Oh, could I have more hover information everywhere in the game, please?
Maybe they're working on it. This
I
is where they
care.
picked to start. Unique blight items.
Fine. Let's less alt tab, please. Less alt tab. Don't make me wait for PoE 2. The of treasures modifier on the strong boxes now grant 100 to 250% more rarity of contained items instead of previously 1,000 to 2,000 increased rarity of contained items. So I didn't even know those types of numbers existed.
Oh, I knew that rarity was stupidly high, but I also knew that it normally never meant anything. So
yeah. So anyway, there it is.
Essence balances.
One more thing for the items. The Forbidden Woods and Silo maps can no longer roll the twinned modifier. Anytime they add that, it's like, okay, good. But I also kind of think like that should be a mod that comes up in every single boss discussion when you're creating a boss.
Yeah, you'd think you would have known that at the beginning. It is a little weird for some of them, but
anytime it's removed, great. Like I love fighting, the more bosses, the merrier. But anytime you're making a boss,
you could know that beforehand. Essence balances. So for me personally, I don't care. I like essences, but I definitely do not craft with a focus on essences. I like that most essences got a buff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's good because I do use them, but it's like leveling up. That's how I get my free alch.
Oh yeah.
To get an item. So
every build I make, I like to have a let's go for it item. So I like to make sure that there's always an item that I don't need specific mods on, but certain ones would be fun because I just love using essences. So I like that they're on par and rebalanced, and I think that's great. For the most part, it's my convoking wand.
Abyss Jewels, I thought the same thing.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
It's more exciting to me. Both those two are more exciting to me than the cluster jewel balance.
Yeah, you know what? Cluster jewels are used by everybody. I'm that rare player that I don't bother. I've never had... Now, granted, I'm a slower player. Could barely even play the league this last league. But I've never had a cluster jewel unless you gave it to me in that specific league where I was like, oh, you know what? That's actually really good for my build. All my guides, I have a cluster jewel socket there just in case they come across it. But for me... because I play solo self-found, when I finally end up getting a cluster jewel, remember, I can never get a delirium to roll for the life of me. I'm like, oh, that'd be good for someone else's build. So all these changes, I'm like, okay, I'm going to start making my builds without even caring about cluster jewels. GG's not going to like that. They really want them to be apart, but...
I like cluster jewels, but I couldn't care less. I assume they're balanced in a way they need to be, and that's it. I'm not going to look at it and be like, which ones, what did I use? You know, especially because I like to change my build every league. So the clusters I used to use mean nothing to me now. So oil changes.
I think they're neat. I keep forgetting it. Like, you're still going to anoint the same way. These are all for map changes, right? And I never even crossed my mind to use them for maps. So
no, me either.
Can you use them for all maps or just blighted maps?
Sure. No, I
okay.
don't have a clue. No,
Great.
I'm pretty sure it's blighted maps, but
that's fine.
Pretty sure
whatever.
It's blighted maps, yeah. We're pretty pro.
We know. Hey, anybody have questions, you just let us know. You just give us a shout.
Just send it to Wrecker of Days, please. Crafted Veiled modifier balance.
Sweet.
Cool.
Okay. Unique balance items. I skipped it.
Yeah, there was nothing. There was nothing that was overly exciting. There was one thing I thought that I liked.
You thought you liked it, and then someone said you
It
didn't,
wasn't
so you
that.
stopped?
It wasn't that exciting. No, none of them are super happy or exciting. But I am surprised how much work they put into Vinktars. It's like they're trying to bring it back. Like Vinktars used to be a massive flask that everybody was using, and it's interesting for them to put all this extra work now into Vinktars. But otherwise, I don't care. Incursion unique changes.
Didn't even look at it.
I looked at them and I was like, okay, that's cool. I didn't know what most of them did before because I don't use them.
Glad they've been updated.
Yep. Sacrificial Heart is cool. That one's so before it used to get a power charge whenever you would use a Val skill. Now you get maximum power charges when you use a Val skill.
Those bastards.
Necessary change, of course, obviously. All right, monster changes. I love the first part of this. That's the only line I care about. And that is that the final bosses of each act have had their drops reworked, making it more... Perfect. There's more of a reason to either do them or maybe... If they made them farmable, that would be amazing.
Oh, wouldn't that be cool?
Amazing. If you're playing in like hardcore solo self-found, the idea of fighting back to an act boss just over and over to try and maybe get a few good items before... I love that. I absolutely love that idea. It's never been
Wouldn't
like
that be
before.
great if every single boss, if it was like a new GGG requirement, that every single boss had a specific drop? Not just Cyrus, not just whoever, but every single boss had a drop, that boss only drop. That would be really cool.
And then this is where your harvest thing came in, which was hilarious. It's like, we've reduced them by 30 to 50%. However, the machinery now grants 100% extra increased life. And I was like, oh my God, don't tell me this. Just do what you have to do. It ended up being even. Whatever it was you did, you said this is still maintains it to be equal. And I was like, oh, there's got to be something I don't know about for why this is happening.
So just this, maybe it was yesterday, but I noticed that the engine improvement patch was released on console. So 13.2 or whatever it was. 3.13.2. And so I'm like, oh, sweet, I'll check it out. And I noticed that on the patch notes, it was only the texture streaming that was updated, and I was kind of bummed about that, not the other engine improvements. Maybe they're coming later. But I loaded it up, want to do one map just to see if that actually made any big changes. I get a harvest. And remember, I've mentioned a few times, I didn't get to play a lot of harvest. I'm like, oh, sweet, this is awesome. My second one, I get this unique guy that is not taking damage. And my build, my zombie build, it's a really good boss build. It's barely taking damage. Then all of a sudden it starts floating in the air and there's like 30 rares, all like porcupine crazy rares in there. I have no idea what's going on. They were so fast. There's no chance for learning the boss. You can either take all this damage or not. Hopefully, it didn't work out very well for me at the end, and I hope that this change somehow makes that fight manageable. It's a rock solid build. There's very little I could do to improve the build, and so maybe this will change it.
Was there anything else in monster changes that stood out to you?
Yeah,
there's no way that third one didn't.
I'm saving it for last. It's third on my list, but I'm saving it for last. No.
There's nothing else. Bring it up. We need to move this along, kid.
Rare monsters dominated by Cyrus have had their attack, cast speed, and movement speed lowered. Thank you. Good. Bastards. The Bullthorn skill used by the Lieutenant of Rage in the Labyrinth, basically is one of the racecourse bosses. It's been visually updated, okay, and has no more damage reflection. Which is nice. Interesting. I never actually noticed it before. Yeah, I saw other characters did. As a minion build, I never ever noticed it, but yeah.
Can you believe they got rid of allies can't die?
Oh, you son of a bee. Son of a bee. But it means this is me pretending that GGG listens to this podcast.
Finally.
Triple G. Because I can't tell you how many times we've complained about this, or at least I have, but
every
allies
episode.
Can't die aura has been removed.
So good.
Now, it's been replaced with a nemesis modifier that does the exact same thing, but it's at least it's temporary.
And
it's
if
not
you kill
like
them,
this
they still lose it.
Thing.
If you kill the main boss.
But it has a duration at least. So even if for some reason, which does happen a lot, you can't find the freaking thing and all the mayhem on the map. Okay, whether it's 5 seconds, hopefully it's a low.
But that also means it's not a totem anymore. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a nemesis modifier.
So you're only going to see it when you're fighting nemesis mobs first off, but you're also never going to have to deal with the totem.
Oh my goodness.
I'm so happy about that one.
It feels like every single time you roll has increased totems on a map. It's like 90% of them had it. Oh, so anyway, wonderful.
I just want them to get rid of that one shrine now that makes you invincible, like actually invincible until you click the shrine. If you click the shrine, you become invincible.
Oh, them. Yes. I agree. GGG. If this was the only line in the patch notes, I'd be happy. Great job.
Yeah, this would have been a way shorter episode too. Xana League mods for this, I didn't even care. I didn't even really like any of them. Fortune favors the brave.
12.
Oh my God, I didn't even see that 12. No, thank you. Heist is 6. Yeah, see, I won't do any of them. I'll do Fortune favors the brave if there's a challenge for it.
Fortune favors the brave's nice once you set up, but I normally don't even do them.
Yeah. User interface changes.
Epilogue screen now has the Conquerors and Maven quest lines in there, which is nice. And it's expandable, just like the Maven quest line.
Which needed to be, because it was only Maven last league.
That's right. Now, I didn't even know this was a thing. Did you know you could copy an item's description with Control-C and put it somewhere?
Yeah, because that's how you can get items into like PoE and stuff. You can copy an item right into PoE.
What?
Uh-huh.
This is amazing.
He's so happy.
I didn't know. Well, I mean, obviously, when I read this, it says copying an item's description with Control-C now also copies the item class. And I'm like, I'm just learning about control. Like, I know copy, like, in terms of computer, but I didn't know you could actually just do
the things you can do with a keyboard tie that you can't with
it's amazing.
Controller.
And then you can control-click Jun to bring up the Unveil interface right away. As long as she shows up in my heist hideout, I'm happy. If she doesn't, then who cares? I know other people are going to love that, though. And then moved the list of filter, your UI, really high up in the options menu. So now you don't have to scroll to the bottom. Whoop, whoop. Filters.
Trade website changes, doesn't matter. Quest rewards are cool.
Okay.
If you're curious where you're going to get them from.
This next section is huge.
Oh my God, finally. Hey?
This is like, the title is going to be PvP changes and patch notes. That's right.
Yeah, they're so stupid.
I still want to try PvP.
I love that Reap has a PvP change. It's a brand new skill and it has a PvP change.
Just in case.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And then finally there were just a bunch of fixes, which I always find them cool. I just don't. I'm not going to read them.
There was one that drove me nuts because I've theory crafted a ton with it and it just never seemed strong enough. Fixed a bug where Infernal Legion support was not being affected by damage over time multipliers. What?
Well, it's been
that
fixed.
Whole skill is a damage over time multiplier. How long has this existed? The whole skill is a dot skill. That's like saying RF now works with damage over time supports.
What you mean is thank you, GG.
Yes, thank you. And there were a few other things that I found in there too, but they're all just, yeah. Sweet. I think that's awesome. I can't freaking wait. I think this is just such an amazing, unexpected league.
Well, and it's going to be 2 potentially really good leagues in a row. I know Ritual for you performance-wise wasn't great, but the league itself was incredible.
Yeah, I really was excited for it. Did you ever get to the boss in Ritual? Just say yes.
Yeah, it's like 40 times.
Oh, 40?
40.
What was the challenge? 39? Obviously.
I'm excited to see 2 leagues in a row. And more than anything with this league, Ultimatum, I am so excited about all the changes to the core game versus the Ultimatum side of it. Ultimatum to me is a perk. It's going to be just super fun to pick these items that you can do. And
I feel
these
like
challenges
every
for yourself.
They always do such a good job with their core changes. I just can't believe these amount of core changes.
Yeah,
like they already set our expectations at the beginning, saying just FYI, this is going to be a smaller expansion because it's not the first one of the year where you get the new end game expansion as well. And then they come out with this, and to me, this is way better than an end game expansion.
Yep,
this is amazing. I can't wait. And
I concur.
Co-op, J-Dog. Co-op.
Yeah, we get to actually try it.
Well, we'll see. Yeah,
in a couple days from now.
Crown Slam
all day.
Zombies.
All right, let's wrap this up. This has been episode 78, Forever Exiled, the Path of Exile podcast. I am Justin, a.k.a. Tags.
And I'm Tyler, Wrecker of Days.
Thank you guys for joining us for our special
Midweek
patch notes episode. If you're looking for more information, we got a website down below, foreverexiled.com. We're on Twitter, foreverexiled82. Hop on our Discord before 3:14. You'll find out what general chat we chat in-game. And if you want to know more about our Patreon and other things you can support, other things you can use to support, you'll find them down below. I need to edit this and go to bed. Peace.
Bye. Love you.
Welcome to Forever Exiled.